Please state your name for the court.
Dana Greyjoy.
Mr. Greyjoy, what qualifies you to be a human trafficking expert?
I received a bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's degree in social work from Central Coast University.
Have you ever testified as an expert witness?
Oh, plenty of times. 27 human trafficking, 15 for the prosecution, 12 for defense.
At this time, Your Honor, we request that the court recognize Mr. Greyjoy as an expert witness in the field of human trafficking.
Any objection from the defense? All right. Expertise entered into the court record.
Can you please define for the court what human trafficking is?
Human trafficking, it's a modern day form of slavery, you could say. There's various forms of ways to put human trafficking on someone. You can use physical force, you can use duress, deception, make victims do or act against their will, even without them knowing.
Okay, in your expert opinion, do you believe that Ms. Stark was a victim of human trafficking?
Wholeheartedly.
Okay, and what do you base that opinion on? How do you base those actions upon?
Well, in my experience with human trafficking, there's certainly a lot of elements that make someone a victim of human trafficking. Some are present or some are not. And in this situation, human traffickers commonly look for vulnerable people who may have emotional issues, financial issues, or unstable living situations where Lynn Stark clearly had all three.
Okay. How do traffickers often lure their victims in? Was the defendant able to control Ms. Stark?
Well, the defendant firstly controlled her using her, basically her basis of immigration. Her visa was expiring and he threatened to have her deported, basically forcing her to work or leave the country.
Okay, and was there anything else?
There may have been.
Okay, just move on to the question. I mean, going back for it. Remember, he's not going to do witness you're going to ask. Okay.
What were Lynn's living conditions like?
Lynn's living conditions were awful, to say the least. As soon as you walk in the room, you smell mildew, and you walk in the bathroom, you can see she's clearly been washing her clothes in the sink. The bathroom door is missing. The plumbing was broken. Walls were peeling paint. There were bars outside the windows. I wouldn't let my kids live there.
Are you familiar with Addison Frey?
Yeah, the opposing human trafficking expert.
How do you explain that he came to a different conclusion than yourself?
Basis just a lack of experience. It has to be. I'm clearly more experienced than he is in every sense of the word. Not to down him on any sort of way, but he's clearly he hasn't been in the game as long as I have.
So again, Mr. Greyjoy, based on the evidence you examined, the statements of the parties involved, the substandard and abusive living and working conditions, are you absolutely sure Lynn Stark was a victim of human trafficking?
Put my whole career on it.
No more further questions, Your Honor.
That's like the cross.
You mentioned that human trafficking is a modern day form of human slavery, right?
Yes.
But Lynn was not a slave?
Depends who you're asking.
She got paid for her work, though, right?
As a human trafficking victims.
She was provided her food
Yes.
and given a room and board.
Yes, as slaves were provided. Slaves need to be fed so they can work. They need to sleep so they can work.
Bro. All right. Victims of human trafficking often aren't able to understand an employment agreement, right?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Counselor?
Victims of human trafficking often aren't able to understand an employment agreement.
Often.
Did Lynn understand her agreement?
Yeah, often she did.
And they're also denied their wages, right?
Not denied their wages, they're just paid fairly less than the usual person.
You're aware with the findings made by Addison Frey, right?
Yes.
So you'd also find that she was paid substantially higher than most human trafficking victims.
$1.30 is substantially higher.
Okay. Now, through your communication with Lynn, were you able to find out if Cameron ever physically assaulted Lynn?
Oh, no, he never put his hands on her.
Did he ever threaten to physically assault her?
Didn't physically assault her? No, but he started threatening her.
Okay. Now, in your assessment, you didn't factor in Lynn's mental state, correct?
No.
And you didn't factor in her depression or her anxiety?
Both of which came from the judge. No.
And you also didn't factor in the overwhelming circumstances she faced, being an immigrant in a new workplace with a new culture.
That's not what she stated.
So it's possible she was just simply reacting to the circumstances she was mixed in with her depression.
It's possible that angels are real. Anything's possible.
All right. So it's also possible that she was overreacting to Cameron's actions.
Anything's possible.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counsel. At this point in time, we would say, as prosecutor. Yes.
Please state your name for the court.
My name is Addison Frey.
Okay, and what qualifies you as an expert?
I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's in social work.
Do you have any other experience?
I attended medical school
And how many years have you been in this?
for the past 15 years.
And why were you hired to come here to do this?
I was hired to interview Lynn Stark.
And did you get a chance to interview them?
Yes, I did.
And do you agree with Dana Greyjoy's opinion about Lynn being a human trafficking victim?
I do not. He uses criteria as factors.
And what would the criteria be?
Some of the human trafficking situations are not all the same.
And could you explain more on that?
They target unskilled workers. They physically abuse them.
And what about Cameron's behavior?
Cameron's behavior was like an average boss. You wanted the work done, so it was just angry.
Okay. And what about Cameron's work relationship with Lynn?
They had a legitimate relationship, like they would both get the same workload.
Mm-hmm. And were you able to inspect Lynn's apartment?
I was. It was habitable, but she could have decorated it.
Based off the interview with Ms. Stark and your own findings, what did you conclude?
That she was not a victim of human trafficking, and it was caused by her anxiety and depression from her moving to like a fast-paced job.
And then overall, what did you conclude?
That she was not a victim of human trafficking because of her depression and anxiety of the fast-paced job she had as a cook.
No more further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Sayers, 1 second.
Now, are you aware of Mr. Greyjoy's statement, his findings in his statement?
Yes,
So then you know that Mr. Greyjoy interviewed the victim the very next day,
yes, I did.
whereas you waited a month.
Well, I got the case in a month.
I see. And you don't agree with Mr. Greyjoy's findings, right?
I don't.
Now, since you read Mr. Greyjoy's statement, is it okay if I compare yours with his?
Yeah.
Now, are you aware that Mr. Greyjoy has 5 more years of experience than you do?
Yes.
And you said that you taught police academies. Have you ever taught a government agency?
No.
Okay. How many times have you testified as an expert again? I forget.
How many times?
How many times? Well, now you claim that Lynn Starks, the victim, her movements were never restricted, right?
Yeah, they were never restricted.
Wasn't Lynn Stark locked in her room for a full night?
That's what they said.
Are you saying it's not true?
It is true.
Okay. And you claim her physical pain has nothing to do with her living conditions, right?
Right.
And you say that Lynn, fluent in the language of English, misinterpreted his threats and yelling, right?
Right.
And you also claim that Lynn has no education.
I think she did have education.
Oh, that she had education.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you aware that her education comes from her mother to cook this cuisine? No more further questions?
Thank you. At this point in time, we ask for a redirect. You may want to,